You're listening to Just Hit Play with your hosts, Peter and Nick Cabral. If you're tired of your stagnant, streamed music feed, then strap yourselves in for an intergenerational sonic journey through Peter and Nick's favorite songs.
Welcome to episode 66 of Just Hit Play. I'm your host, Peter. With me is the defeated Nick. Nick, how you doing?
Are you referring to the Manchester
United?
Oh, right.
I forgot. We played you early in the week. I totally forgot.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, that was a tough one. It's still a sore spot. And all I got to say is Jordan Henderson and James Milner should not be starting a Premier League football match in the year 2022 ever again.
Maybe not together.
Yeah, not together.
Yeah, I was so surprised that was it. What's his name? Fabinho?
Yeah, he wasn't fit for more than 30 minutes.
Right, that totally makes sense. Well, we won't dwell on it. You know, football games are football games. It'll come back around, so we won't dwell on it any further. But it was a fun game for me, nonetheless.
I hope it was cathartic for you.
Yes, it was. We're ahead of you in the table by winning one game, which is funny.
Yeah. Well, other than that, I've been managing to do okay. You know, I'm keeping my spirits up. And I've got my last day of work for the summer tomorrow. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah, that is fun. So you won't have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning anymore?
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I could not be happier, honestly. It's been quite the slog to get through this last bit of summer, but we're almost there.
One of the things I thought about, and by the way, we have also our sound engineer, Darren, in our Brisbane studios. Darren, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Cool. One of the things that I thought about this week is I haven't explained what we do in this podcast in a long time. So let me just refresh in case you are listening to this episode and this is your first time listening to our podcast. So I'm 48 years old and I live in Australia. And my nephew, Nick, who lives in Canada, in Waterloo.
Guelph right now.
Guelph, who's moving to Toronto in a week or so. So because I live in Australia and he lives there, we don't see each other a lot. It's been almost 4 years since I've seen you. So we decided to come up with this podcast because we both love music, to exchange music with each other. Obviously, I listen to a lot of older music and he listens to a lot of newer music. And I found that I just wasn't listening to a lot of new music. So I asked Nick if we could exchange songs every week. And then that slowly evolved into this podcast. And just to reiterate how far away we are from each other, we worked out that it's roughly about 15,000 kilometers apart, depending on where you and I are at any present time. I rounded it to about 15,000 kilometers. 13 or 14-hour time difference, depending on daylight savings time. So I'm recording this podcast in the morning. You're in the evening. So it's a great way for us to catch up every week as well, because, obviously being this far away, we both lead busy lives. Well, sometimes I do. This is a great way for us to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really fun ride. When you said before we started recording that we're on episode 66, it's insane to hear that number. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, and it's crazy to think that we've come that far.
Yeah.
It's been a great ride. And I've got a lot of great music from this added to my library, and I hope you can say the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really showed me, and we haven't just listened to new music. You've, got me to listen to some old hip hop from the 90s that I've never heard. It's been really good. So I've thoroughly enjoyed making this show. And today we're attempting a video podcast for the first time. So hopefully eventually you'll be able to see us on YouTube. And this is going to be our test video to see what it looks like and what we need to improve and things like that. So excited about this episode.
Me too. I'm really excited to get into this.
All right, before we go, I have a comment from one of our listeners directed to you, Nick. Andy P. in Toronto says, Ian Brown, who's the lead singer of the Stone Roses, is a fucking legend, and the 14-minute version of Fool's Gold is biblical. So he just wanted you to know that.
Fair enough. Yeah. If I had the attention span for a 14-minute version of a song, I would agree with you. Unfortunately, the internet and social media has fried my brain cells,
right.
And I can't sit still and be engaged in a 14-minute song.
Yeah,
where nothing changes.
maybe scrub the extended mix and just add the single version to your playlist.
Oh, I did. I listened to just the single version.
Okay. Well,
Way,
what did you
way
find?
better. I thought it was fantastic. And for anyone who
Okay.
hasn't listened to last week's episode, I accidentally listened to the 14-minute version of a song instead of the 4-minute version.
Yeah.
And I can confirm the 4-minute version much better for
Yeah.
my sensibilities and attention span.
Good. I'm glad you went back and listened to it because it is a killer song.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and again, as Andrew said, we listened to "Fool's Gold" by the Stone Roses last week. That was episode 65. So if you're curious, please go back and listen to episode 65 on whatever platform you listen to this on. Are you ready to get into some music?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going first this week, and we're going to finish. We're doing 90s month. So, we did 90s for a couple of months. So last month we did sort of 90s music from America, and now we're doing 90s music from the UK. We listened to a lot of Manchester sounds, and now we're going to stop with one of the best bands from the 80s and 90s, Depeche Mode, and the song Personal Jesus. Darren, just hit play.
Reach out, touch faith.
All right, so tell me your thoughts on Personal Jesus by Depeche Mode.
Fantastic song.
Right.
I love this one, and it's an absolute highlight of recent weeks for me. Everything about this song, I really, really enjoy. This is definitely sticking around in my rotation for a while.
Yeah.
Can't gush about this song enough. I really loved it.
Well, this is my favorite Depeche Mode song. Now, let me tell you about my history of Depeche Mode. They started in 1980, and I've known about them for a long time. And their first big hit was "People Are People," which was an okay song, but I really never got into them until this song sort of came out. They were definitely more of like a drum machine. It was just all synth based, and this was their first real heavier, darker song. They definitely went into a darker period on this album, which the album is called Violator, which is a fantastic album, by the way. So they definitely changed their sound and went in a different direction. As the song officially came out in 1989, but the album was released in 1990. That's why I'm including it in the 90s version, or the 90s month. But this sound went very, very darker and was in perfect lining with the mood that was coming up with the grunge sound and how alternative music was sort of coming to the fore. This just fit in perfectly with what was about to come in a year's time.
Well, it's interesting you say that this was an evolution of their sound. I love the production.
Yeah.
I think it's just so perfect, and for the song being released in 1989 as a single,
yeah,
ahead of its time, I think. Also, it's really just right up my alley with the programmed drums. It's like heavy and driving.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, I thought it was really reminiscent of a lot of Kanye's production. Particularly what they do with the vocal breathing or chants that is looped and is a part of the beat instrument. That is so Kanye. Songs like Black Skinhead come to mind.
Right.
And when I heard that, I was just floored. I thought, this is incredible. That got me hooked on the song from my very first listen. The combo of the drums with the vocal breathing noises, so good. I love it.
Well, this album is produced by a producer called Flood, who was just amazing in the 90s. He's worked with U2, Bjork, I believe 9 Inch Nails, so he was around a lot. So he's a very big producer in the 90s. I'm not sure if he's still doing anything now, but Flood was amazing. So if you knew an album was produced by Flood, you knew it was going to be like a top-notch production value on the album.
That makes sense to me because, as I said, the production's such a standout, such a highlight. It didn't matter what the vocals were saying or what they were like. I just was enamored by this beat. I could run this beat back infinitely, I think, at least for a little bit, and get just so much enjoyment out of it. Almost at a loss for words with how much I love the production on this song.
Yeah. So obviously the song's called "Personal Jesus." So let's talk about what that means. So the guitar player Martin Gore, I think his name is, read a book called Elvis Presley and Me, which was about Priscilla Presley, relationship with Elvis Presley, and that's what he got from the book, that Elvis was like her own sort of personal Jesus, and that's what they write the song about, how someone could be like a savior to someone, not necessarily talking about Jesus Christ. It's more the concept of being a savior to someone specifically. So it doesn't really have any bigger connotations than that. It's not an anti-religious song or an anti-Jesus song or a pro-Jesus song, really. It's just more about that ideal.
Yeah, and I actually thought that was a really cool idea or message for the song to have. I sort of picked up on that really early, and I think it's very interesting. It's a cool spin and a cool way of describing that idea of someone relying on you for support and help and
Right.
nurturing and guidance. Just framing it as being their personal Jesus, really like unique and catchy way of putting that. I think that's just inspired.
Let's quickly talk about the lead singer of Depeche Mode, Dave Gahan. How do I put this? The fact that he's still alive is quite surprising. He says that he's OD'd 4 times. He had a really raging drug habit around this time, and I believe it was 1994. He OD'd and was revived by the paramedics as they came to him in his hotel. So he's tried to commit suicide once, which he says was a huge cry for help. He's now clean and sober, apparently, and it's 2022, so it's a long time since the 90s. So he's still alive and apparently drug free, but yeah, he was in rough shape around this time.
I feel like a lot of the artists and bands you bring to me, there's a story about someone in the band having struggles with drugs, and it's sad. Frankly, it's that time. It seems like, I mean, not just this time, but the 70s, 80s, 90s. It seems like it was plagued by drug addiction in the music industry, really, and it's sad to hear. But I'm glad that he's doing good now.
Yeah, he entered rehab officially in '96. So theoretically, upon recording this episode, he's been in recovering drug addict from 1996. Just a really, really bad heroin abuser. So good on Dave Gahan for not dying, I guess, in the 90s, because that easily could have happened. We lost a lot of really talented musicians in the 90s due to heroin. Heroin had a really big comeback in the 90s. And, Kurt Cobain was a heroin addict. The guy from Stone Temple Pilots, Scott Weiland, was a heroin addict. The lead singer of Blind Melon was a heroin addict. The bass player for a band called Hole died of a heroin overdose. So the guy from Lane Staley from, I can't remember the band he was in, he died of a heroin overdose. So yeah, it was a bad scene in the 90s.
Yeah, that's super unfortunate, and probably robbed us of a lot of great music from all those people.
Yeah. No, it was a really bad moment. So hopefully the drugs are better and less addictive now. I don't know. I haven't done drugs in a long time. So hopefully they're a little bit not as harmful as they used to be.
Well, you still get a lot of I shouldn't say a lot, but you still hear about rappers in particular dying of overdoses. Juice WRLD, Mac Miller come to mind. Those names in recent memory. It still happens, and it's very sad when it happens, especially because it can happen quite young. Juice WRLD, he was a really huge up and coming rapper. He was getting -- 1 hits, on the verge of becoming a huge mainstream star, and I think he died at the age of 20, maybe, to drug overdose. So it definitely still happens, and it's just sad.
Recently as well, the one of the founding members, Andrew Fletcher, died in May of this year. I don't remember what he died of, but yeah. So I don't know if Depeche Mode will be around much anymore because they've lost one of the original members. R.I.P. Mr. Fletcher.
R.I.P.
Yeah. So that happened not too long ago. So I'll be curious to see what happens with Depeche Mode going forward.
Now, was Depeche Mode like a pretty big mainstream band? Because
Yeah.
I swear I've heard this name many times. Like this, the band name is so familiar to me.
Well, their output would have been amazing. So they started in 1980, and they went. They released albums probably until recently. So their output is amazing, and especially in the they built their fan base starting in the 80s, and then these albums were their biggest albums, the ones that came out in the 90s, and then in the years 2000 they went like really really grimy and dirty and sort of like nightclub characters. It was their stuff later on was really really cool too. So apparently David Gahan's kids cringe every time some of his videos come up from like the late 90s and early 2000s because of how just greasy and awful he looks. But it's they're great videos and great songs. Yeah, they're one of those seminal bands that have been around forever.
Okay, that's what my suspicion was, because like I've said, I swear I've heard them before. I've heard of them before. I've
Yeah.
seen people talk about them. Uh, but I'd never heard this song, funny enough, and I don't know if I've ever heard another Depeche Mode song. Maybe I have, just didn't know it. But I'm really impressed by this one that I've heard. Like I said, I thought the production was incredible, and the themes of the song too, really, really cool, and just such a nice way to put a spin on just being someone's pillar for
Mm,
support. And especially, I'm a big helper myself. Like I really like
yeah.
knowing that people come to me for support and help and things like that. And uh, it's a really interesting way to tackle those themes in this song, I think.
Yeah, I would say Depeche Mode is right up your alley. From the stuff that I've played you and that you've liked, I think if you listen to this Violator album, I think you'd really really dig it. There's some great songs on this album.
Cool. Yeah, I'll add it to my library and give it a listen
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Again, their output is amazing. They have so many songs. They've been around forever, so their output is tremendous. In this, I believe this song was ranked in my notes here 368th on Rolling Stone's greatest song of all time. So yeah, it's just one of those songs that has been around for a long time, and it's one of those classic songs. And again, that's why we do this podcast. There's so many songs that are just lost that a lot of people your age just have never heard before. So again, that's the reason why we're doing this. I want to introduce you to some really really cool music, and hopefully you'll like some of it.
Yeah, well, mission accomplished with this one.
Yeah,
And I've got a question for you.
yeah,
When did you become a fan of these guys? Because they have such, from what you've said, they have such a long time being active
yeah.
and different phases of their sound. So when did you
It
hop on?
it would have been around this album. Again, I thought their sound was. I wasn't really into the electronic sound as much when I was growing up. So in 1990, I would have been 17, 18 years old. So I would have been, starting. I would have had started to have some part-time jobs where I could afford to buy some records, and so this is sort of when I got into them, when I sort of had a little bit of purchasing power, and I could start buying some records. And this sound is amazing. I love the way the guitar sounds. I love the way that, like you said, Flood's production is amazing. I like how dark it is. I like how gritty it is. The video itself was, I don't know if you saw the video to the song, but it was directed by Anton Corbijn, who's my favorite photographer of all time, who's now a filmmaker. So he does a lot of movies now. And Anton Corbijn, strangely enough, got his start photographing Joy Division. Um,
Cool.
he he's a Dutch photographer, and he loved Joy Division, so he went to England, to Manchester, to photograph Joy Division, and lied to them and told them that he was a famous Dutch photographer. And they're like, okay. And what they liked about him is that he was really quick. He took photos very very quickly, and they could just get on with their day. And then once Ian Curtis died, he had these amazing dark and moody pictures of Joy Division, and once Ian Curtis died and the interest in Joy Division increased, they needed the visual representation to sort of match Ian Curtis's dark life, and his pictures were perfect for that.
Cool. Wow, that's a really interesting crossover then between Depeche Mode and this
Yeah,
photographer. And yeah, wow.
he would
I
have.
didn't get a chance to look at the video, but I will look at it.
Yeah, Anton Corbijn worked on a lot of stuff around this time. So he photographed the Joshua Tree cover. He photographed a lot of REM album covers, Depeche Mode. Then later in the 90s, he worked with like Nirvana and Metallica, a lot with Depeche Mode. I think he worked with The Cure. So he worked with a lot of really cool bands in the 80s and 90s.
That's dope. It's quite the resume.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's because he's got the cachet that he has. Like the Rolling Stones wanted him to come out and photograph them, and he had an idea, and the record company said no, you'll do this, and he told them to go screw themselves. And Mick Jagger had to officially approve his idea so he came out and photographed the Rolling Stones the way he wanted them to be photographed, and just the cachet to go tell the Rolling Stones, no, I'm not going to photograph you unless you accept my vision. So that's kind of cool. So he's got a lot of cachet especially in the photography world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really, really cool stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you liked it. It's my favorite Depeche Mode song. And things are going to get weird next week for you with the song I've chosen for you to listen to. So I'm glad you liked this one.
Oh, hit me with the weird. I love the weird.
Yeah. Well, it's going to get weird, Nick. It's going to get weird.
I'm so ready.
Okay. Darren, what did you think of Personal Jesus? Had you heard the song before?
I'd heard it. I didn't know who it was by, but yeah, I like it.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Nick, before you get into your song, just to give you a heads up, I do have problems with this song.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But please jump on into your song.
Sure. So this week we've got John Woo Flick. It's a very lyrical-driven rap song by Griselda members Conway the Machine, Benny the Butcher, and Westside Gun. I'll go into all of these guys and Griselda and what it means and their place in the hip-hop scene right now. But this song is from Conway's newest album, God Don't Make Mistakes. It's one of the best songs these three rappers have ever made. I love it. And Darren, why don't you just hit play?
Tell them rap niggas we taking over. Had to change the flow up. Now I'm in the Maybach, sipping a spade mimosa. Take a big and make a quota with the baking soda. Pray to Jehovah K with the shoulder strap. Spray is over. Wait, hold up. If I say so, spray a roller.
All right, so as I alluded to, I think this song's fantastic. I love all three of these rappers, but now you've got me curious. What problems do you have with John Woo Flick and the Griselda Boys?
I love the way it started. I loved that beginning, but it didn't go anywhere. The backing track is so boring. It doesn't. You know how you talked about the Stone Roses song, the 14-minute song, just didn't keep your interest because there was no dynamic changes. So it was just, this is how I felt with this song. I think, what's the name of the main guy who talks, who raps in the song?
The Machine.
I think it should have ended after his verse. There was no need to have the other two. I found the song so boring that it should have ended when he stopped his verses. The fact that they tacked on two more people on such a boring track blew my mind.
Very interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I love this song already, so it's hard for me to agree. I can't agree with that.
Yeah.
But I do see what you're saying. It's a very minimal beat because it's just a backbone for these guys to rap over.
Yeah.
It's very much like a lunch table freestyle beat where it's just, here you go, now rap over it. And yeah, I guess I see what you mean, where
but
it doesn't
if
change at all.
If you look at the stuff you got me to listen to earlier, like the Biggie stuff, the Jay-Z stuff, the Wu-Tang Clan stuff, the backing song was interesting and it changed and it had dynamic shifts in it. This just the rapping style. Like I'm not criticizing the rapping style. I think they're fantastic rappers. The message of the violence of their lifestyles. I get all that. Brilliant. I couldn't keep interested.
All right, so it's the production you have an issue with. Derringer, the producer that you've got your beef with.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Like I said, it the fact that it was like a 4.5 minute song or however long it was, just felt too long for a beat like that.
I will say, to your credit, I do agree with you in the sense that when Benny the Butcher goes, he's the second guy. I kind of tune out a bit during his verse, but then I always get roped right back in when the third guy, West Side Gun, because his entrance is crazy.
He was the best rapper. Like for me, his part was the best. The other two guys were a little bit monotone, where he came in with a little bit more energy, and I liked his rapping style a lot more than the first two guys.
Okay, we're gonna get you some more West Side Gun, because he's a polarizing rapper. He's really out there and animated, and he's got the crazy ad libs where he does like the gun noises and extends the words, and he's all over the place. Very Old Dirty Bastard-esque, and he's polarizing. But I'm glad you like him.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So what's the guy's name? Benny?
So the second guy is Benny the Butcher.
So who's the first guy?
Conway the Machine.
Okay, Conway. What is wrong with his face? Is this a knifing accident? Was he shot? Was this a birth defect? Because obviously, when I looked at his rapping style and looked at his face, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Right. So, as you could tell from the lyrical content, well, I guess you can't say as you can tell from the lyrics, because a lot of rappers lie nowadays.
Sure.
These three do not lie about what they rap about. Before they were rappers, they were all criminals. They're all from Buffalo, New York.
Oh, okay.
And
that explains the misery. Okay.
Conway has been in jail. Benny the Butcher's been in jail. And what happened to Conway the Machine is in 2012, I believe, he was shot in the face a few times.
Right.
So one side of his face is fully paralyzed. And so he raps with a very distinctive slur. Mm-hmm. And it's actually like, obviously horrible that he got shot, but it gives him a really, really unique rap voice that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, as I said, these guys were all they're all involved in gang activity, we could say. But after a while, I think after Conway got shot, they all sort of came together and said, "Hey, maybe we should not do this anymore. Let's try another career avenue."
Right. Yeah.
And they all loved music, rap music. They all would freestyle and like make songs together for fun. So in 2012, they founded a record label called Griselda Records, fully by themselves, and they had a vision of it being an organic, independent label focused on hard-hitting, authentic street raps. And since 2012, they've been releasing project after project, just endless mixtapes, really building up a following and audience purely through word of mouth almost. In 2017, they signed a distribution deal with Eminem's Shady Records. And in 2019, a management deal with Rock Nation. And around 2017, 2018, they transitioned from mixtapes to actual albums, studio projects that kept getting bigger, selling more and more little by little every release. And fast forward to 2022, and they're kind of taking over, honestly.
Right.
In this niche, this lane of hip-hop, the lyrical, authentic stuff, they are the biggest names by far right now.
Okay. No, I get it. Like, obviously, I watched the video. And when the video is closed captioned so you can actually see what they're rapping about, that's when you know they really care about the message they're trying to get across, or they really care about the lyrics that they're rapping about. So that was the first thing that came across. This is a more lyrical band versus other hip-hop artists that you've got to listen to. I have no problem with the hip-hop. They could have, I don't know if their producer called it in that day or they ran out of time. I think they're let down by the track.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of beats for this type of hip hop now are really focused on loops, making just the cleanest loop,
really,
and having that go over and over again.
That's so disappointing to me.
Yeah, that's sort of the direction that the production has moved in for this style. Just they want the seamless loops, and so it's just like a really consistent driving backing track to just really rap over. But I can totally see why you'd have an issue with it. Like I do get it, and I'll make sure that, because I am going to be showing you more Griselda.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to show you Griselda artists since we started the podcast. I've just
Right.
been waiting for the perfect time.
Yeah, it's interesting because technology, the way it is, you can have limitless tracks on a song. It's not like back in this, when hip hop started in the 70s or 80s, where you had, a record spinning, where you had to really be very crucial in the choices you made with what you were spinning and what you're rapping about to match that. That's gone. That world is gone. So they could have just added a dynamic shift to it, a fade out, a fade in, a different drum beat every once in a while, like even a James Brown, like hey, like something to make the song a little bit more exciting. I don't know. I just found the track a little bit too boring.
Yeah, I think that's actually extremely valid criticism. It's not something I really have had an issue with on this song, just because I'm really predisposed to liking this sound and the rappers. I just didn't really think too much about it. But you're very right, and at the very least, I'm really happy you are appreciating the technical abilities of these three guys. Like that, they're really good rappers. Just that the beat maybe did him a bit of a disservice here on this one.
Yeah, like I said, with all the technology available in the world, make it a little bit more interesting. It's a little bit boring.
Yeah, totally fair.
Yeah.
Totally fair. But as I've said, we'll get you some more Griselda because
Cool. Looking forward to it.
And the reason I've been waiting for these guys to show you them is they're really the ones carrying the torch for this lane of hip hop. What we listened to with the 90s stuff, that lyrical street rap, they're the ones doing it now for modern audiences.
Right.
And it feels like every few months there's a release from one of these rappers. They're constantly making music. Consistently too, like consistently good music, which is so impressive nowadays. And that comes with them having their own record label. They're independent. Right. They can release on their own terms. It's always made to a high quality, very high standard. And I can honestly say I've never heard a project from Griselda artists that is below a 7 out of 10 in quality. So pretty impressive stuff.
Now, are they commercially successful as well?
They don't do very well streaming, but they get a lot of physical sales.
Right. Okay.
Their audience probably skews a bit older than my age. They do very well in physical sales. They sell a lot of merch. They're really big on like their merch and clothing. All three of them are really into like high fashion stuff. So to put a high focus on that, which sells very well. They tour really well. So not so much streaming, but the other ways they do well.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated, to go back to sort of my day, a band like Radiohead who can sell out arenas, but don't sell a lot of records, but yet their fans are very dedicated, where they can go and, see them in a 30 or 40,000, capacity venue, but they definitely don't sell the records that would stipulate that they should be in that category, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I'm really curious to see if bring some other music from them, just to hear what different sounds they have. Do they always rap in a trio, or is it a varied sort of mix?
It's pretty varied. They all have a lot of solo projects.
Yeah. And
usually on every solo project, not every, but on most solo projects, there will be a song with the three of them. If that makes sense. They always try to have one song that has the whole trio, and then other than that, it's like a solo album.
Cool. Yeah. Like I said, I appreciated the hip hop. I thought the rapping was tremendous, but the track, no.
Yeah, and totally fair. Darren, what did you think of this song?
It wasn't really for me, and I was confused why the girl was doing the dancing in the video clip. It just didn't seem to fit anywhere into it besides it was dancing.
Right.
Yeah, I think they're just going for some provocative imagery,
Yeah.
some abstract.
Yeah.
There's probably some
Yeah.
meaning behind that.
Right. Yeah. It certainly did have a weird shift in the video actually with the three hip hop rappers with the dancer. Yeah, that was a little bit of a dichotomy there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's actually interesting. As I said, they're really into high fashion and art. Like a lot of their songs, especially West Side Gun, he'll be rapping about buying $1 million paintings at auctions and stuff.
Right.
So
Okay.
they have an interesting dichotomy of the hard street stuff with like more cultured interests, I guess you could say, like
Yeah.
art and
Cool.
fashion, and yeah. So I guess that's where the dichotomy lies.
Cool. Interesting. Nice. All right. What song do you have for me for next week?
Next week, we're going back to some sad guitar indie rock with
Yep.
Circle the Drain by Soccer Mommy.
What's it called?
Circle the Drain by Soccer Mommy.
Oh, okay. Never heard of them. Interesting. Looking forward to it. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the songs I've been playing for you are really sort of hit songs, accessible songs. So we're going to get a little bit more into esoteric, maybe something a little bit stranger. And I love Tom Waits. I don't know if you know Tom Waits.
I've heard the name.
Yeah, I love Tom Waits. And we're going to listen to a song called Misery is the River of the World. That is fantastic, but different. So I'm curious on your take on it.
Cool. Looking forward to that a lot.
The music we're going to listen to in the next few episodes is going to be really lyric heavy. So the lyrics are really, really important. And I think these are some of the greatest lyricists that have ever lived. So Tom Waits being probably at the top.
Awesome. Wow, that's quite the setup. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I appreciate the heads up because that gives me information on how I should listen to this stuff.
Cool. All right, let's go into who played it better. So at the end, at the episode that we play at the end of the month, we do this little thing where we take an original and we take a cover, and we all three of us discuss on which version of the song we liked better. And then I put it up on Instagram, and then you can choose, you can vote for which song you like better. So the original is by Simon and Garfunkel called Mrs. Robinson. So let's hear that first, Darren.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson.
All right, so there's Simon and Garfunkel with his Mrs. Robinson, which was featured heavily on a movie called The Graduate, starring Dustin Hoffman. And we're going to listen to the cover written by the Lemonheads about 20 years after the song, and their version of Mrs. Robinson. So let's hear that one too.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place.
This one's a tough one for me because I really love both versions. But I think I have to go with the Lemonheads because this is the first Lemonhead song I ever heard, and I love the Lemonheads. So I'm going to go with the Lemonheads. How about you?
It's also a very tough one for me because initially I thought I liked the Lemonheads one more just because it's more upbeat, faster, seems a bit more accessible for my tastes. But I've realized that I think that the Lemonheads version is really dated. It sounds very much like a product of its time, whereas the original sounds more timeless, almost like really has that classic quality where I think I like it better.
Right. Yeah, the Lemonheads version is definitely a 90s song.
Yes,
It's very-
it really
it-
sounds like it.
It sounds like a 90s song. Absolutely. How about you, Darren? Which one are you picking?
Again, incredibly hard because I like both versions. I just don't like the Frank Sinatra version, but I like both of these versions.
Yeah, we did listen to the
So-
Frank Sinatra version a little bit earlier.
I'm going to go with the Simon and Garfunkel
Simon
version.
and Garfunkel. All right. Yeah. Yeah, this was the first Lemonhead song I'd ever heard. And I adore the Lemonheads. A lot of people hate the Lemonheads, but I'm a huge fan of them. So, yeah, I'll have to go with the Lemonheads. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So I'll put this up on Instagram, and then you can choose. Please vote on which one you like better, the Lemonheads or Simon and Garfunkel. And you can find us on Just Hit Play Podcast on Instagram. So come follow us. We share a lot of music there, and then you can vote for different things on our Instagram page. Cool. So that's pretty much the end of the episode. What are you guys up to the rest of the week?
Like I said, just finishing up the summer job and getting my shit together for the big move. Just figuring out what I've got to get done and doing the packing. It's hectic but exciting, I'd say.
Yeah, make sure your dad lifts all the heavy things.
Yeah. All right, yeah.
Yeah, make sure and fill pillowcases with like extra weights, just to fuck with them a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you, Darren? What are you up to?
Just working and more working.
Yeah. I'm starting to get into my slow period, so I have a lot more free time. And me and Darren are starting a new venture with our bird photography, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as the weeks go. But I'm getting someone to create a logo for us. We have a name which I won't release yet because it's ridiculous. I'll talk about that in future episodes. So that's sort of something I'm working on, just a side project to sort of keep me entertained for the next few months because I really have it's getting really slow for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
And lastly, we like to feature an independent artist at the end of every episode. So our independent artist is Blak from West Philadelphia. Now, instead of me talking about the song, let's hear him describe the song. So, Darren, let's listen to a little bit from Blak.
What's going on, y'all? This is Blak from West Philadelphia, and this is right here my new single that's going to be featured off of my mixtape, Homicidal Thoughts, which will be dropping in the fall season of this year, called Demeanor. Hey, Darren, just hit play, man. Approach with caution, nigga. Yeah. Cross me over like you AI, then it's up, my nigga. I ain't got a problem laying hands and feet on you, my nigga. Part of my demeanor, Aki, this is how it is. Shootings every other night, shit what you expect. Living in the ghetto, how your chain and your protect. Niggas playing snatchies and they soul is going next. So you can be a target or a demon, either way you getting hit. I went through the worst times, that shit hurt me. 2020 helped me realize my own worth, B. Stand on my own too and put God first. The guys in my corner if I fall face first. No target for me, I stay out the way, tell them boys ease back. Act like you break while getting hoes in your wig cap. Me getting on begging knees, imagine that. These niggas are losing, no, never been that. I ain't that type of cat. Cops killing teens, niggas killing children. How can a nigga smile with all this blood spilling? Niggas really off they rock. Pump your chest out all you wanna, it can deflate in the next hour. Twitter fingers lead to lead showers. Catch you lacking, ain't no funny acting, better activate your powers. I'm not a leader, that's a follower. I'm a leader that follow leaders, so middle finger to the non-believers. Who gives a fuck about that next nigga? I want it now, fuck that next nigga. I better than that next nigga, even that next nigga that's sitting next to that nigga after the next nigga. Don't be alarmed, there's disrespect running the bloodline. I'm in this tighter than a fat bitch squeezing in size 5. Better yet, let's take it back to 2K11 when LeBron's hairline wasn't trying to look in his own eye. Yeah, I'm spitting, I'm talking, rest in peace. DMX, that nigga was barking, I mean true legend. He was really offer, any rapper he had beef, he put him in coffins. I want respect, royalties and the love. All that flashy shit just don't sit right with me, cause I want better things. Get my niggas hella rings. Empty stomach with a loaded 9, been a scary thing. Just that homicidal thoughts talk. That ride around in that tinted car talk. Fuck it, bitch, and make her swallow my kids and kick it right on my crib and watch that ass do the slut walk. Get out. Pull up on the op, we got the drop top. Don't speak it if you ain't about that walk talk. Follow the code and keep it G. But that number one rule, we saying West, don't fuck with me, nigga.
You've been listening to Just Hit Play. To contact your hosts, Peter and Nick, or to be featured on an episode as musical talent, email justhitplay7300@gmail.com. Keep up to date with news and announcements by following on Instagram and Facebook, linked in the show notes. Subscribe on your favourite podcatcher to tune in next week for more sonic delights. And if you can't wait till then, Check out the Just Hit playlist on Spotify, linked in the show notes. A special thanks to Braden Munch for the theme song, and thank you for listening.